Welcome to How Music is Made, an exploration of the infinite and ever-changing, vast ways in which music is made. I'm your host, Max Allen, and my interest in how music is made goes back to even before I was born. In my mother's womb, I kicked along to the bands that she played with week after week throughout her entire pregnancy. I grew up in a home with weekly band rehearsals where a cast of unique and very colorful musicians cycled through. I'd sit and listen, or I'd doze off on the couch. My brother was even known to fall asleep with his head inside the kick drum on a pillow. I've understood and been making music for as long as I can remember. This core musical foundation intersected with my interest in tinkering and building, and I naturally became a music producer. As a producer, I've worked with hundreds of artists, helping their musical vision come to life through the art and medium of recording and production. More recently, I founded Recording Fund, a grant-making nonprofit that supports artists and musicians by helping cover the costs of recording their music. Recorded music is the newest limb of the tree of music, and its very essence of capturing moments embodies how music is made. Music isn't just chords, it's not just notes, and it's not just words saying in notes over chords. It's a culmination, a manifestation, an arrival of something not yet conceived. Conditions, circumstances, backstories, struggles, successes, technology, determination, inspiration, creativity, and more. It's what's happening in the room at that moment when the song is written or recorded. And that means it's what's happening in the people's lives. What happened that morning, who they just lost, or what heartbreak they just went through. It's also the technology of it all. Microphones, electric instruments, vinyl, tape, digital, distortion, effects, electrons meeting ones and zeros manipulated by engineers, gear, skill, chance, and mistakes. And now, more so than ever, how music is made is dictated by who's going to listen to it, how it's received by or delivered to the Internet of Things, the algorithms, social media, how it affects people, and how culture ingests it or not. Each episode will dive into a specific thread or component of how music is made, from people to struggles and successes, to technology and gear, to culture, politics, and yes, labels. Our first episode has a dual purpose. How Music is Made is a podcast created in partnership with Recording Fund, which supports how music is made. Today's conversation is with Josh Simons, the CEO of Vinyl Group, which owns the vinyl record retailer Vinyl.com, a prominent supporter of Recording Fund. Vinyl.com is pledging 2% of its Black Friday sale now through December 1st to Recording Fund, which will directly support how music is made. Vinyl Group is an ecosystem of music and culture-focused businesses that aims to interconnect with each other in a way that is beneficial to music makers and music listeners. Each of its umbrellaed businesses, like Jaxsta, that deals in song credits, Vamper, which could be called the Tinder for musicians, Vinyl.com, and even Rolling Stone Australia, are all providing or solving for one piece of the puzzle of how music is made. Josh and I's conversation quickly gets at a topic that every music maker has pondered: the intersection of music and commerce. I'm very grateful for him taking the time to talk music with me and choosing to support Recording Fund year after year with the businesses that he runs. Here's Josh and I's conversation. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the first interview of the How Music is Made podcast.
Thanks, Max. Oh, I better mute. Look at that. 1 minute in, one second in, and my phone goes off. I've muted it. You know what? I'll go a step further, and I'll also put it on Do Not Disturb.
Okay, sure. Well, that's premium treatment right here. I feel like we're getting the top shelf stuff.
Well,
here. So
this is an important conversation.
yeah. So welcome to How Music is Made. I don't think I've told you about this podcast idea, but this is a conversation about every facet possible of how music is made. So think like how music is made by machines or humans, or by struggle and heartbreak, or by DAWs, or by vintage gear, or this. You can expand on this forever. And so we have a couple of things to talk about, but you are the CEO of Vinyl Group, which sees itself as the heartbeat of an equitable music world, right? Providing tech and media solutions that connect music creators, fans, and brands. So
That all sounds like stuff that I do.
yeah, it sounds like stuff you do. So how is music made in this ecosystem that you're in charge of?
Yeah, well, it's a good first question. The answer is in so many different ways, right? So the way I view the world and in this music tech game is that fans, creators, and rights holders, and you could add brands as well. And the reason why all of those items are needed is one party sort of funds, for lack of a better word, the other. So in order for creators to keep creating, typically they need an audience to consume their product and pay for it, whether it's through streaming or appearing at shows. Typically speaking, the way that fans get their information is through the press or through media, including social media. And so those platforms need to survive, and they do that by advertising typically. So that means working with brands. And then there's rights holders in the mix who sometimes are the creators themselves, but sometimes it's labels and publishers and other participants in that music ecosystem. So it's sort of on the one hand quite complex, and on the other hand fairly straightforward once you get your head around it. And what we do is make products that speak to one or more of people in that flywheel or that ecosystem. And so we really believe that, again, to sort of keep the music industry prosperous, that you really need to be doing what you can to improve the quality of the connection between any of those parties. And so everything that we do is about connecting, A to B or B to C or any one of those things together. And sometimes it's multi-directional and sometimes it's multiple parties, not just one or two. So that's probably a convoluted way of explaining it all, but it's actually fundamentally true and justifies the existence of the whole music industry. So that's how we think we can provide use.
Yeah, I don't think it's convoluted at all. I think that the truth of the music industry is that it is complicated, and it's more complicated than it's ever been. Right? There's more on-ramps, there's more opportunity out there, which actually also makes it very noisy out there for the creator and also for the consumer, the fan. And then as you're pointing out in there, those have long intrinsically been connected by the world that we all abide to, which is advertising.
I guess, but I'm talking about, my perspective is always about, so we can talk about how it's actually made. And for me, that's all vibrations and it's literal physical, like sine waves and things coming out of a mouth or an instrument into another piece of technology that records the movement of that wave and so forth. And so there's sort of that side of it. And that's the more nerdy side and somewhat hippy dippy, which I actually love. Yeah, I love that. We can come back to that. But in order for any of that to even happen, you actually need for someone to pay for the equipment, pay for the room that you're recording in, pay for people's time who are involved in the creation process. And on the flip side, when you think about the fan's perspective, pay for the final product, pay to attend the show. So you actually need, like, commerce is a really important part of how the music industry turns, because without it, it wouldn't turn. It wouldn't, it would just be a hobby that people do sitting around a campfire, which is probably how it all started, but it's obviously evolved well past that point. And so I suppose, where my interests lie are more in how do we keep it moving and keep it turning. But I'm always happy to have a broader chat about the next stage, which is the fun stuff, which is the making of the stuff that we actually enjoy.
Well, yeah, I mean, the beauty of what we're trying to break down here is that it's more complicated than write song, record song, release it, and then the commerce chain starts. There's an entire, it preempts that. There is interest,
it's the commerce of it all that created the energy to write that song maybe in the first place, because there was a person that was really influenced by this album or that album or seeing this artist, right? They're happening in this kind of 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, if you will, to get a little woo-woo here, manner where they all touch each other at different points in the process, which is really interesting because
I'll give you my perspective. Like, one of my biggest motivators to starting my band some 20 years ago, whenever it was, that's crazy that I can even say that, was...
You only look 20 years old, so it's like you were jamming young.
I hope so. But I would watch TV shows like The OC or Entourage, and they would have these great music syncs. I didn't even know what a sync was back then, but they would have these great placements of songs in the TV episodes. And I would watch them and go, I want to write a song that appears in a show like this. That seems cool to me. I don't know why, but so there's another commercial driver that created a motivation to step into the studio. And so that's that, like, to your very point, the commerce side of it actually applies not just once it's all created and then you have to think about a commercial release plan, but commerce can be a motivator in the very first case. In fact, I would argue that in most cases, folks go, I don't want to be a train driver, I don't want to work in a supermarket, but I wouldn't mind earning a living from doing the thing I love. And you don't even need to be money hungry to do that. You're just like, I want to earn minimum wage from playing music. And so then you've got commerce sitting at the start of the chain, not just at the end. And so it's all pervasive.
It is. And this is, I love this because I struggle all the time with this idea that commerce and the commodification of music has inherently changed what we are actually doing with music. But simultaneously, it has been a great motivator. You can't take it out of the last 100 years of incredible music. And there is a commerciality. I don't think that's a word. That is just part of commercial. Exactly. That it's just part of the fabric of this now, which is interesting. So that kind of leads us back into how does even Vinyl Group get birthed as an idea? You know, like, how did we end up in a place where we say, well, actually the world that music goes into is a complex ecosystem in and of itself that is going to ultimately, through free enterprise and markets, going to create other small little ecosystems that provide, help, goods.
So I think, it's a good question, because companies like Vinyl Group don't emerge because, like in typical sort of startups, a founder has an idea and wants to solve a problem. And the reason that they don't emerge like that is because we're sort of at this point a portfolio business that has a broad goal and remit and mission, but you don't start a startup and go, I want to be a portfolio company, and so that it just doesn't really happen like that. So as things mature and they get bigger and there's consolidation and things come together, things change. And so, Vinyl Group was before that Jackster, which, at a certain point was a combination of Vamper and Jackster, and then Vamper and Jackster and Vinyl.com. And then you sit down and have a chat with the board and branding companies and key staff members and talk about, have we maybe changed our mission here? It would seem that we're now a portfolio business. Indeed we are. That wouldn't have been conceivable or possible when you were just a single startup chasing a much more specific niche and problem with, So they come into existence in funny ways, but they're necessary companies. And we're not the only one. Like, I can think of some that specialize more in royalties and royalty collections and things like that. And I can think of others that are more on the distribution side and own lots of different smaller distributors. And so there's lots of sort of holding codes that work in the space of music. Our mission's a bit more holistic than the specificness of those examples, because we're sort of saying we want to connect these stakeholders and we think we can make money and create good in the world by doing those things. And that's allowed us to dabble in more diverse assets like media as well, to address the fan piece, and e-commerce as well to address the fan piece. And so where we see the fan opportunity is slightly away from our music tech assets, which are more on the creator and rights holder side. We certainly serve I think a very important role in the broader ecosystem.
Absolutely. Again, I think that there's a unique reality of the ecosystems that we're talking about, they haven't necessarily always existed. When I say always, let's just say the last 100 years of music, because that's really the modernization of music, recorded music. And so, almost also how you and I ended up finding each other, or me finding you, or you helping me, was kind of through that same sort of space. Now there's these different ways where people that are interested in music and other things come together to create elements that aren't necessarily like sitting in the studio and making things. And it's just an interesting manifestation. It's, a part of the big tree of music, now that we have.
Do you want to tell your listeners what we do together and how we came to work together?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another facet of this conversation is that Vinyl Group, specifically vinyl.com, has been a longtime supporter for the past 3 years. It's brought us into the Play It Forward campaign. So tell me about the genesis of Play It Forward.
Well, yeah, every year, obviously, you see not just music tech companies, but tech companies and in fact, bricks and mortar companies make a lot of song and dance around Thanksgiving and all the sales and stuff that happen around that time of year. And we sort of wanted to take that and turn it into a force for good. And before I even came into Jackster, then before, it was Vinyl, there was, I think, some internal discussion about creating a kind of fund that would help artists from the proceeds of what was then an idea. Vinyl.com was still an idea. And then obviously it's been out there now, and it's establishing a solid presence in the sort of vinyl online record store space. But when it came time to our sort of first Thanksgiving sale and all of that, I thought, well, Max, you and I are already connected and working on the recording fund. And so it made a lot of sense for us to just take what we were going to take from our own store into our, we didn't have the infrastructure of a charity or, a nonprofit like you'd obviously done all of that work. So it just made a lot of sense to call you up and say, let's try this and see what impact we can make. And I think it's been very successful. I think we've grown year on year, and we're going into our third year together now, isn't it? I think, is this our third?
This is the third year, I believe. I was just doing some other content around this, and reflecting on also the fact that this relationship, this partnership, is actually creating music. We are taking those funds and being able to turn them into grants that help artists record music. And that full stop is beautiful. But if we kind of back up a little bit.
I think just to make that even simpler for folks listening, when someone goes to vinyl.com over the next couple of months and buys a record that they love from an existing artist, they're actually helping to fund the next generation of artists, which is really cool. It's just really special. I was thinking about this before I came on today, where I'm at, where this company's at, where I can choose what to put our time and efforts into and stuff like that. We don't just, get involved with things to always make more money, right? It's a part of it, but it's not the whole end game. A lot of what we do and preach, and I think we put our money where our mouth is we actually want to make this industry a better, fairer place. And that's a big factor in how I choose what to do. And so working with you is just an absolute no-brainer in that respect.
Well, we super appreciate it. And I personally super appreciate it. And like you said, people, what I think is really beautiful, and you outlined this, the love of music out there, people loving vinyl or wanting to listen to their favorite large artist on vinyl, the purchase of that is, secularly creating, it's transforming into support for up and coming artists. And I think that that's actually what the music industry needs. It needs to balance out the tech-driven parts, the trend-driven parts, and it needs to have a community-driven part. And we can do that in the bounds of all these big, beautiful companies that are doing big, beautiful things too. And I think you and Vinyl Group, vinyl.com, are spearheading that with us. And so we are super appreciative of that.
Yeah. I think the full circle moment for us will be when someone's buying a record from an artist that came through Recording Fund and buying that to fund the next the next
Absolutely.
the next round.
Yeah,
and
we'll
I
have
think
to figure out.
that's only a matter of years. Right.
Only a matter of years and probably distribution chains. I'm sure, one or two of them already have some sort of vinyl that maybe a grant supported track is on, and then figure out how does it end up in the set of vinyl that you guys are curating. So yeah, it's just a matter of time.
Watch that space.
Well, that's fantastic. My plan was not to keep you super long, so I super appreciate taking the time to tell us about where you're coming from, where Vinyl Group and Vinyl.com and all the other businesses within it, and also just to tell you, recorded here, that I'm super appreciative of what you have done for me and done for Recording Fund.
Of course, and hopefully for many more years to come.
We'll see how this year's Play It Forward goes. Everybody out there should go and buy some vinyl at vinyl.com. Josh, do you know anything about the sort of discounts you guys are giving this year?
It's up to, I think we're doing sales up to 40%. So it's a big one this year. It's our biggest one of the year.
Wow. Fantastic. And we'll see it. Thank you.
Cool.
How Music is Made is created in partnership with Recording Fund, which supports How Music is Made. This episode was produced by me, Max Allen, and the music was provided by Real Fiction.